Tonight, you will meet some refugees who fled Afghanistan. It is all part of our new in-depth series from Afghanistan to here in Texas.
More than 4,000 now live here in the Lone Star State. And for the past few weeks, our in-depth reporter Nick Bradshaw has been speaking with some of them, breaking bread, hot tea, and hearing about a journey halfway around the world.
Here in America, we come out of the holidays. A 17-year-old prays.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
5 times a day. But photos like this break the heart of those living right here in Texas.
اینمی از افغانستان که خوب از دیگه اینمیجا راحت هستیم دیگه نمی چیزا نمیشه دوز نمیشه.
Right now that he has a freedom, he can go for a walk outside, like there's no theft, no explosion.
He says he's worried about his family. He fears the Taliban. These are the photos. Health, food, and human rights are in crisis. After the Taliban took power, the White House retaliated.
He just said flat out it's highly unlikely the Taliban would take over.
Yeah.
Freezing funding, billions of dollars out of reach.
They all know the economic consequences of this are going to be catastrophic, and the collapse of the Afghan economy will impoverish 98% of the population is now poor.
And Andrew knows my opinion. He knows my belief.
Andrew Natsios, now with the Bush School of Government and Public Service at Texas A&M University, worked under both President Bush. He's questioning why the U.S. pulled out so quickly.
I think the Biden administration made a catastrophically disastrous decision to simply withdraw from the country for, I must say, short-term political gains in the United States.
But the idea that somehow there's a way to have gotten out without chaos ensuing, I don't know how that happens.
For 129-year-old, life has been no walk in the park. Now, it's hard to believe it's been almost 4 months ago since we've seen those horrible images play out on TV. That's of people from Afghanistan holding on to those planes. But this man didn't only watch it, he lived it.
And it really makes me sad when I see that, because before we had poor people, but it wasn't that much. But because of the circumstances, like you left Afghanistan, there's not much work to do.
He's now here in the U.S.
New thing for me, I always heard about it. I never thought that one day I'll be living in the United States.
The World Health Organization is warning that more than 1 million Afghan children could die this winter. That's more deaths than a 20-year war.
People don't have anything to eat.
The U.S. is now home.
لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي.
So it might seem a little different. American weapons now in the hands of the Taliban. A conflict Afghans hope will soon end. I'm Nick Bradshaw reporting.
A powerful story, Nick. Thank you. For a deeper look inside this series, head to our website, kxxv.com, or download the 25 News mobile app.
Taking a closer look now at Afghans living in Texas, a report from Texas Tribune shows over 4,400 Afghan refugees have resettled here. Refugee Services of Texas says less than 1% of applicants are actually granted asylum. Most in Texas receive help from nonprofits, just like that one. And 2021 marking the end of America's longest war that lasted nearly 20 years. 2,400 U.S. service members lost their lives, as did over 46,000 Afghan civilians. The Afghan war had an enormous cost financially. Council on Foreign Affairs reports the U.S. spent $2.3 trillion in Afghanistan, some 69% of Americans disapproving overall, according to a Pew Research poll out in October.
They defeated the United States and our allies, but that does not translate into actually governing, and that's part of the crisis that we see today, which is why so many Afghans are trying to leave the country to find safety in Texas and elsewhere.
But it's what's happening right now in Afghanistan that has experts concerned. The country is facing a humanitarian crisis with millions facing starvation this year. The Taliban ruling Afghanistan again with an iron fist, but this time around, it's working to change its image from the 90s and early 2000s. Robert Cruz is a Stanford professor and leading expert on Afghanistan. He says Taliban leaders are reaching out on the world stage.
What's striking is that Washington and Europe are looking at the Taliban regime as this pariah state, but in fact already all the neighboring states are already essentially cutting deals of various kinds with them.
Cruz says White House sanctions have frozen the Afghan financial system, but at the end of the day, it's only hurting the people of Afghanistan more than the Taliban.
They will not run out of bullets. They will not run out of the means of control with which they can, they govern the country. So I think the sanctions are missing the regime, but really crushing the Afghan people. And that's why I think, the American public should ask questions about, what is Washington actually doing? What is Washington achieving?
Now you can find this full interview on kxxv.com.
Now, these stories are only the beginning. This year, the 25 News In-Depth team will be looking at the past, present, and future of Afghanistan and how it impacts life here. It's all part of our new series From Afghanistan to Texas.